Buddy, this is Bill Mack here once again with your TNA Impact Wrestling wrap-up. This is for the July 5th, 2016 edition of TNA, The Final Deletion. Yes, folks, I know you've been hearing it all week long. You've been anticipating the final matchup between Broken Matt and Brother Nero at their home in Cameron, North Carolina. Well, now you're going to have it. And was it funny? Here again with another episode of TNA Impact Wrestling on Pop TV. Thanks for joining me, clicking on this video. And, you know, the show was pretty decent. Final Deletion was funny. Very entertaining. A lot going on. So let's get right into the episode. We begin off, as usual, with the Final Deletion segment kind of starting us off, and we have Matt's groundskeeper there, and he reads a message that states that tonight will be violent and not to try this at home. And then we see Matt and his family, you know, they're holding a birthday party for their son Maxwell, you know, and then Broken Matt tells the groundskeeper that at sunset the Final Deletion will take place. And so he ends up telling his groundskeeper to prepare the grounds for massacre. So, and he says, okay, and so he leaves off. So then they're getting ready to set up the mat ring and everything for the night's matchup, which I think was going to be pretty funny. At the beginning of the show, we see the Miracle Mike Bennett standing in the ring with Maria, and you know he's bragging about being the greatest X Division champion, even though he's only had it 1 week. But he does say that since he has one, he's going to use option C and cash in the title, and he wants his world title shot not next week but tonight. And he claims that he's what TNA needs, and that's what he wants to do. He wants to cash it in tonight. But this prompts Dixie Carter, the president, to come out to the ring. And she says, you know what? You're not going to get what you want. You're going to have a match before that matchup takes place. And you're going to defend that title. You will have a match tonight. But you're going to take that title and you're going to defend it in an Ultimate X match against the whole X Division. Not just 4 or 5, but the whole X Division. So this looks like it's going to be good. You know, he wasn't mad. He was mad as I don't know what, you know, throwing a tantrum and stuff like he does, which is what he's good at. You know, he does throw good tantrums. So we see it sets up our first match of the night. We have the Ultimate X matchup for the X Division title. We have the champion, the Miracle Mike Bennett, versus Eddie Edwards, versus Trevor Lee, versus Andrew Everett, versus DJ Z, versus Rockstar Spud, versus Braxton Sutter, and versus Mandrew. So we've got a ring full of people. And right off the bat, Eddie Edwards goes after Bennett because, as you remember, how he won that title was he held onto the ropes along with the help from his wife to gain the X Division Championship. So Eddie Edwards didn't waste any time. He goes right after Bennett, and you know, with everybody in there, it was a very fast-paced match. You know, they had to slow it down because it was a little slow again. It was a very fast-paced match where you seen all of them basically get high spots in it as your typical X Division matchup, which is what it's all about. You know, and then at one point everybody's down. You know, everybody's down. And then we see coming to the end of the match, Eddie Edwards climbs the ladder. Miracle Mike Bennett returns with the ladder and climbs it, and they battle in the center of the ring. We see Eddie kick Bennett away. He grabs the title to become the champion once again. So we see Eddie Edwards picking up the win and once again becoming the X Division champion. So congratulations to Eddie Edwards on picking up the X Division title. Next up, we see that both Drew Galloway and EC3 both got suspended because of the post-main event altercation from last week, so they're not really going to be on the show doing anything, but we see them two on there. And it leads us right into basically our next matchup, which is for the King of the Ring Mountain. The King of the Mountain, I don't know why I keep saying King of the Ring. I'm thinking WWE. Sorry, TNA fans. I meant the King of the Mountain title matchup. The champion, which is the awesome Eli Drake, takes on basically James Storm, continuing on what happened last week when the segment the fact of life. And remember, James Storm and Eli Drake had an altercation in the ring, and it leads us until tonight's matchup. Drake gets the jump first. He attacks right away, but then he ends up failing in that situation, and James Storm tosses him to the floor. Then Storm, which gets on a good roll there for a while, and through the whole match, Drake basically controls the matchup, which he works really good matches. That's why I like Drake. He can work on the mic and he can work a good match. So he basically controlled the matchup. At one point, we see Eli grab the title, and the referee's arguing with him to put the title down, to get rid of the title, and this allows James Storm time to be able to recover, and eventually he would get the upper hand. And I always say there's one point in a match where there's a turning point in it, and we see that at this point Storm ends up super kicking Drake, who rolls to the outside, and once he gets to the outside, the ending comes when Drake takes the title, and he hits James Storm to pick up the DQ, and James Storm ends up winning this matchup by DQ. So good to see these guys. I like this. I like this rivalry. I like this. They both can jaw back and forth, but cut promos on each other. I think this is going to be a really good match, feud, and then continuing on. Up next, we have a street fight with the Knockouts division. This is a feud that's been going on for the last few weeks here. We have Jade taking on Marty Bell. Remember, these two used to be former members of the Dollhouse when Tarantino left, and then Awesome Kong basically left, and they just kind of all broken apart. And remember, Marty turned on Jade. Jade won the title, the Knockouts title at one point, and Marty interfered and allowed Sienna to get the win, so Sienna has the Knockouts title, and so this has been a feud for a good while to have between these two ladies. They brought what the good thing is, they didn't have wrestling gear on. They didn't have the tight stuff on. They just had on pants and stuff. So good to see them. If it's going to be a street fight, dress like the occasion. That's what I would do. That's why I like when wrestlers dress that regular look for this kind of matchup. So they brought on the outside. We see Bell basically grab a trash can that's got nothing but a full of hardcore stuff in it, and she ends up taking a paper sheet out, a cookie sheet out of it, and starts beating Jade with it. Jade ends up taking her away, and then we see a little bit later in the match where Marty Bell grabs her baton, and we see that Jade ends up getting nunchucks, and she ends up fighting off the baton attack. She ends up hitting the shotgun drop kick, and she ends up putting a chair in the ring. And then she ends up taking Marty Bell and doing a package pile driver, and that's your 1, 2, 3. Jade dominates the matchup. It was a good match overall. There were some parts in it which, with the women's or the Knockouts division, like the women's division in WWE, they kind of are a little sloppy here and there. But pretty much overall, it was a decent matchup, I thought, between these ladies. And good seeing a hardcore match or street fight between two women fighting. So great to see that happen. Next up, we get a final deletion segment. This is funny. It's funny. Jeff is basically at his house, okay? He's just chilling around his house and whatnot. And Broken Matt sends a drone to spy on Jeff, right? And then the doorbell rings. Don't know how that happens. The doorbell rings, and the drone actually speaks to him, right? And then there are several smaller drones that end up invading the house, in which that prompts Jeff to grab and smash him with a guitar, which is so funny. You know, I mean, how they could think of a segment like this is just too funny. And he ends up, they've even got a one with a hologram message from Matt on it, talking about the matchup and final deletion, and Jeff ends up chasing after this drone. And so, you know, as usual, he gets his dirt bike and he starts chasing after it. Well, this prompts Matt, while he's distracted and gone, Matt gets a riding lawnmower. And if you've ever seen Jeff's yard, he's got these crop circles designed. You know, Jeff designs a lot of stuff. And so this causes Matt to get the riding lawnmower and just totally destroy the crop circles that Jeff has in his field. And it's just funny, folks. I mean, funny segment, and you know that can only mean that the match itself, Final Deletion, is going to be funny as well. Like I said, it was very funny. Up next, we see that once again, the Miracle Mike Bennett and Maria are once again in the ring, and you know they're there complaining, trying to kiss up to Billy Corgan, which it prompts Dixie to come in because Maria talks about how it could be her company, she could run it better than Dixie, blah, 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 blah. You know, and Dixie comes out, and, you know, you know, the Miracle Mike Bennett comes to a point to where he says, look, if you don't put me in the main event at Destination X, we're going to walk. And Billy Corgan says, you know what, if you want to, go ahead and walk. Nothing's stopping you. If you want to walk, go ahead. And the fans are cheering, walk, walk. You want us to walk? And then he says, nah, we're going to stay here. And we're going to be at Destination X, and we're going to run the show. So remains to be seen on just what that means with Mike Bennett and Maria at Destination X. So this should be something that we want to see. Up next, we see Matt's groundskeeper. You know, he's preparing the battlefield for Massacre. And he's out there, and while he's doing it, and they show him tightening up the ring and digging holes around the ring and getting fireworks and stuff. And Matt has this gas can, and he sits down and he says, be sure to pour generously on the battlefield because it takes a lot of fuel to delete a Brother Nero. So we see this gas can, so that can only show you what's going to happen. I mean, funny segment here as we go off to commercial. We see, coming back, we see Lashley, basically, you know, they ask him about Eddie Edwards, you know, winning the title. And Lashley said he couldn't care less about the little stunt show because he starts putting down the X Division guys. And he says, I'm not used to all this jumping and flying and all around and stunts and everything like that and how it's become a stunt show. I'm not worried about that because he says, he says, I'm a fighter. So good little cut there with him. I'm beginning to like Lashley, and I'm kind of liking her little promos they're getting here and starting to pull this stuff together here. It makes sense with the matchup, you know. I totally get that. So up next, we have a mixed tag match, a 6-person tag match. We have the Bromans and Raquel versus Decay, which you know is compiling of the Monster Abyss, Crazy Steve, and Rosemary. Up next, and we see that as the Decay are coming to the ring, Jesse, you know, talks about Big Brother After Dark, which you know is a show on Pop, and he's been lately having these hidden cameras all over the building, and he finds something interesting. He finds a camera that shows Rosemary and Bram making out backstage. So that just remains to be seen, you know, because she's been trying to get him to join the Decay for a while. So this kind of remains to be seen on where they're going with this storyline with Rosemary and possibly Bram. So we'll keep watching and see what happens there. We see that Raquel and Rosemary, they begin the match in the ring, which is good, and I like these two fighting. The Decay was getting all the heat, which is as much, which is what they're supposed to do, being a heel tag team. But I think these two really work well together, which you wouldn't think with the Decay and with the Bromance, two opposite tag teams, but the flow was pretty good in this matchup. And I thought that it was a really good flowing, and they have good chemistry, and it all comes down to near the end of the matchup to where everything goes onto the floor, and Crazy Steve ends up cutting off Robbie, and the Monster Abyss goes to choke slam Steve on Robbie. Robbie moves out of the way, and Jesse ends up taking out Abyss, and they end up hitting the bro down on Crazy Steve, and by doing that, pick up the win. So, great win for this matchup. Like I said, good chemistry between these two, and maybe continuing on with a feud a little further down, and maybe this caused the Bromans to continue to move up into that title picture. So, good going for them. Up next, we have Eddie Edwards, and this is his decision on what he's going to do, whether he's going to, A, keep his X Division championship and defend it in the X Division, or is he, B, going to cash that in and have a title shot against the champion for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. So we see Jeremy Borash is already in the ring with Edwards when we come back, and he asked Eddie Edwards what he's going to do, what his decision is regarding Destination X, and just as he starts to answer, Lashley's music hits, and Lashley comes out, and Lashley's like, I'm going to make it real simple for you, and he starts trying to talk Eddie basically out of it, you get hurt, blah, 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 you don't want to do that, blah, 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 you're a great X Division guy, your talent's there, da, 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 da. But then as it evolves and throughout the promo, Lashley starts, and Eddie is kind of showing Lashley that he isn't going to back down. This prompts Lashley to say, okay, why don't you do this? Why don't you go ahead, make that decision, cash it in then. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to rip the heart out of the X Division, because not only am I going to be the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, I'm also going to have the X Division title. So we're seeing him possibly having both titles, and that's what his thinking process is. So he's like, go ahead and cash it in if you choose to, because Eddie was like, look, I've broken bones in this ring. I've still competed. You're not scaring me. And Lashley's all, well, I've ended people's careers. Look at Kurt Angle. I've broken down Galloway. I've broken down EC3. Good basic promo, making their cases for what to do. And it ends up where Eddie says, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to cash it in. And when Lashley hears this, he throws Eddie down, and then he hit an overhead suplex. But when he went for the spear, Eddie Edwards ended up dropping him with a running knee, and ended up standing over Lashley, holding both titles in his hands. So we're going to see this matchup, a champion versus champion matchup for Destination X, where we're going to see the TNA World Champion Bobby Lashley taking on the X Division champion Eddie Edwards. So this should be a good match of two different styles of wrestling, one high flying, one ground and pound game. So look forward to seeing this. Hopefully they'll put on a really good matchup with this. So this kind of breaks us down to the final deletion. Everybody's been waiting for it. Now, I'm just going to give you an oversight and an opinion on this matchup, rather than just word for word on exactly what happened here. This, to me, was something like you would see in the way it's filmed, because this is done at their home. This isn't in the studio. This isn't in the Impact Zone. This is actually at their home. It looks kind of filmed like you would see in like a boss battle in a video game, or they're in a fight movie where the guy's going to face against the monster or the bad guy, And it was kind of filmed like that because it's like they had this ring. Now you picture this. This ring set up. It is in the woods. Okay. And you have spotlights all around it to keep it lit because it was night when they ended up basically fighting. They had spotlights. They had tiki torches set up all around it, you know. They had these camouflaged weapons that were basically under the ring the whole time that were camouflaged. They also ended up having, it was funny, and then there was music playing the entire time this was going on. You could hear it in the background. And what was funny was every time Matt would beat on Jeff, he would yell delete really loud. Like he's like, delete, delete. And it was so funny. I mean, one would not think this is a legitimate storyline, but it's just something they had to do. I thought it was so funny because I've not seen this done in wrestling. And like I said, somebody made it a point that they had seen a few things they may have mixed in with other shows, but I don't care. I only watch TNA and WWE, so I don't know what goes on in other shows. And I know WWE doesn't want to do something like this, but it's just funny because even wrestlers like Joey Ryan, Y2J, Chris Jericho, Mick Foley, all of them were like praising this matchup because it was so out of the ordinary. It was so out of the side of the box. And and at one point, so he's yelling, delete, delete, as he's beating on poor Jeff Hardy with different weapons and stuff. And at one point, we see Jeff climb up in a tree. And he climbs onto the tree, and he goes to hit a swanton on top of Matt. But Matt ends up moving out of the way. Jeff ends up going through the ladder. So that was a tough spot, and I'll give it to Jeff. Jeff will take a bump and a hard fall in a minute. I mean, I can't even imagine how his back, how he even has a back with that. But, he comes falling through. And another funny part, y'all, Matt takes fireworks. Do you remember I told you that he had the fireworks, the groundskeeper? He takes fireworks and lights them up and shoots them at Jeff. Jeff's running around like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And he ends up basically, Jeff has to grab a trash can lid and kind of use it as a shield so he doesn't get shot with these fireworks. Well, then Jeff ends up getting fireworks then. And he keeps going to Matt, and Matt ends up grabbing a bat and trying to use it as a shield to knock him away as Jeff is trying to shoot Matt now. And it was just so funny. They ended up going, and also they fought in the pond. They were even going back and forth in the pond, and it shows that when Matt, just when he thinks Brother Nero was flushed, Willow comes from the water. Willow appears, and it's like, and attacks him. And it was like, okay, I get this. And it was just funny because Willow attacks him because, that's Jeff, basically, But it looks like the groundskeeper. That's the funny thing. But then we see that the groundskeeper, which is this is it was cut. This we can tell it was edited. But then we see the groundskeeper tasing Jeff with the taser, and Matt ends up covering for the win. So then the groundskeeper, was in the Willow costume, like I said, and then they fought into a pit. This pit that was dug out, and then it says where Jeff eventually he chokes out Matt. So then you're thinking it's over with. But then Jeff goes and he climbs a giant sign that's there, right? And they show one of those live before your eyes type videos. And then when it comes back, it shows Matt ends up setting the sign that Jeff's on fire. Jeff falls off, and this allows Matt to cover Jeff for the win. So now Broken Matt, now claims the Hardy name. So this was what it was all about. It was whoever won the match claimed the Hardy name. All the rights, all the riches and rewards that it brings, that Broken Matt said, he now has this. As it was just a funny overall matchup. I thought it was funny, shot funny. I mean, I had never seen nothing like this before. It was a lot of people were going after and looking to. I just totally enjoyed it, and I'd been waiting on it. And it didn't disappoint. It was funny. I just never seen nothing like that. And if you hadn't had a chance to watch it, you've got to check out that final deletion match, if nothing else, from TNA. So very, very good ending to a show. Very entertaining. I laughed at it. Thought it was funny. It was parts like what kind of moments in it, but overall it was a great show. The ending of that was just very funny. Wouldn't have thought Matt would have won it, but he did. Now he has the Hardy name, so we'll have to wait and see what happens up next as we go. But you know, like I said, folks, once again, if you like this video, like it, subscribe to my channel for more content. I do a lot of stuff on my shows. I try to get to subscribers. I hope you like this. I try the best I can do with it. I don't do much. I love wrestling. That's my passion, you know. So I hope you all like it and whatnot. But feel free to subscribe to me. I try to get more content out there. Until next time with TNA Impact Wrestling Wrap-Up. I take care. And this is Bill Mack here. And I am basically signing off.